Okay. Oh. 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 ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परम् ॐ गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुदेवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः ॐ सरस्वती नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणि विद्यारम्भं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा कार्पण्यदोषोपहत स्वभावः पृच्छामि त्वामधर्मसम्मूढचेताः यच्छ्रेयस्यान्निश्चितं ब्रूहि तन्मे शिष्यतेऽहं शाधि मां त्वां प्रपन्नम् ॐ वाङ्मे मनसि प्रतिष्ठिता मनो मे वाचि प्रतिष्ठितम् आविरविर्म एधि वेदस्य म आणिस्तः श्रुतं मे मा प्रहासिः अनेन अधीतेन अहोरात्रान् सन्दधामि वृत्तं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्मामवतु तद्वक्तारमवतु अवतु माम् अवतु वक्तारम् अवतु वक्तारम् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ भद्रं कर्णेभिः शृणुयाम देवाः भद्रं पश्यमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गे स्तुष्टुवाग्वं सस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति न पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति न साक्षो अरिष्टनेमि स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्ददातु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ अहं वृक्षस्य रेरिव कीर्तिं पृष्ठं गिरेरिव ऊर्ध्व पवित्रो वाजिनीव स्वमृतमस्मि द्रविणगं सवर्चसं सुमेधा अमृतोक्षितः इति त्रिशङ्कोरवेदानुवचनम् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः
Very nicely done invocation, Bhagyashri. Very nice. There was only one thing that I wanted to tell you. It's not Guruve Namaha, it's Gurve Namaha. There's no Uki Matra with the Gurve Namaha. Otherwise, very well done. So chapter 13, does somebody want to do a summary for the last class? Anita, would you like to do the summary for the last class?
Yes, I can. So in the last class we talked about the sole purpose of Gyan is bhakti. Gyan without bhakti causes ego. So ultimately the bhakti is nothing but love. And we also talked about the only the bhakti plus Gyan should always needs to work together to realize ourselves. We also talked about the only ritual the only ritual becomes spiritual. So we also talked about eternal VVGP remains the same, what needs to change is within us. So and we also discussed about using our free will to choose the path of self-realization. And we should also see in God in everything and everyone. And we have to definitely practice our means of perception. And we also talked about the four consciousness, that is the lowest being the body consciousness and the highest being the Akshar and the Jivatma is the one we call it as the Krishna consciousness. Most of the saints and sages are in that Krishna consciousness level. That's where we needed to put our mind to at this time. So um, so we have to focus only on the only focus that we needed to do is within us. We needed to go inward and be self-realized. So instead of saying what it means for me, that is the Bhog Maya, we have to see how I have to do the seva, that is the Yog Maya.
Very, very nicely explained, Anita. Very good summary. Very good summary. So now we'll start with Shloka 20 today. So Sanchita, will you start with us? With the connection?
In Shloka 3, it had been mentioned that whatever comes forth from whichsoever would also be explained. Pointing to this averment, the Lord explains the modifications coming from the lower nature.
Karya-karana-kratratve
Karya-karana-kartatve
hetu-prakriti-ruchyate
hetu-prakriti-ruchyate
Purusha-sukha-dukkhanam
Purusha-sukha-dukkhanam
Bhoktratve hetu-ruchyate
Bhoktritve hetu-ruchyate. In bringing forth the effects and the agents, nature is said to be the cause. In the experiencing of pleasure and pain, the spirit is said to be the cause. The effects and the agents. The modifications are divided into two categories, the effects, karya, and the agents, karan. By the word effects, it meant the set of final products of the process of modifications. By the term agents is meant the means through the instrumentality of which the effects are brought about. Of the 23 principles of creation, the following 10 are called the effects. The 5 gross principles, sky, space, air, gas, fire, energy, water, liquid, and earth, solid, and the 5 objects of senses, sound, touch, forms, taste, and smell. These 10 are the end points of the process of evolution or modification. The following 13 are called the agents: intellect, ego, and mind. These 3 constitute the inner being or the agencies of internal actions. Ear, skin, eyes, palate, and smelling faculty, 5 senses of perception, the organs of speech, hands, feet, the organs of generation and excretion, 5 senses of action. These 13 are the agents through the instrumentality of which primal nature, which is the prime cause, gives rise to the process of modification. Experiencing by the individualized self. The individualized self is subject to the process of experiencing for such time as it appears to be affected by the gunas of nature. Though the individualized self has nothing in common with nature, due to the influence of delusion, it accepts the gunas of nature. This delusion makes it subject to the process of experiencing favorable or unfavorable impulses or stimulations. The impulses of the world are experienced because of an apparent contact of the individualized self with nature, though the two have entirely different characteristics. As explained in Shloka 17, the seeming experience of a snake in a rope causes all the experience of the mind which are associated with a real snake. The experiencing of pleasure and suffering from the surrounding phenomena constitutes the entire content of the world, and the involvement of the individualized self in them constitutes its worldliness.
So the simple way to understand this, and I know I give the same example a lot of times. One is the if there is a old proverb, right, in English. If a tree falls in a forest, does it make any sound? Right? That's the old proverb. I'm sure all of us have heard of it. The question, this shloka answers that particular question. That nature keeps operating, it has its own cause and effects, but to experience nature, you need to have spirit. Nature just is. Its laws of nature are operating in its own, the way it's designed in the physical sansaric laws. But to experience nature, you need to have soul, you need to have spirit, which is why a person, when he leaves the body is still nature. And that body in its form still goes through the cause and effects of nature. But that dead body is no longer experiencing nature because the spirit has left. So every time you experience something, that is the experience because you have a soul, because you have the individualized self. Now, our Tuina will explain the details better than me, but our soul is essentially the witness. It is not the doer, it is the witness. It comes as the individualized self and it allows us to experience it. Now, how we experience it depends on our antakaran. If our antakaran is completely clean, right, then our spirit experience, imagine it to be a clear glass and sunlight being your individualized spirit. When it moves through clear glass, all you will see is divinity. All you will see in this world is Bhagwanji. We don't, because our antakaran, which is that glass, is dirty. So then we see it based on our perceptions, our likes, our dislikes. And the whole job of the Gita is cleaning that particular glass. Right? So this is what the shloka in a crux means.
I think that's well explained. Going into some more details here. The nature is what? Nature is nothing but a set of rules, laws that govern. Okay. Bhagwanji has made these laws that govern the nature, and everything is governed by it. You can't be outside of it. There is only Bhagwanji who's outside the laws of nature, right? And the day he accepts the gunas, okay, and goes from an unmanifest to the manifest form, he is also subject to the laws of nature. Right? So whichever form he comes into this world, he himself is also subject to the laws of nature because that's how he's built it out. So whether you understand those laws or not, whether you accept those laws or not, whether you give consent to those laws or not, it doesn't matter. You're always subject to those laws of nature. Okay? Always, at all points of time. Whether somebody's seeing, not seeing, being aware, not aware, consenting, not consenting, accepting, not accepting, it doesn't matter. Those laws of nature apply to all of us. These laws of nature then create effects. So in our Mool Prakriti, that entire Mool Prakriti chart that we see, right? So we've got soul on top, which is unconnected, but is powering the 23 constituents below. Out of those 23 constituents, now this shloka has gotten into further detail that we had not seen before, right? So here, out of those 23, 10 are called the karan, the effects, the final effects. And 13 are called the cause, the karya and the current, sorry. So the effects are the karya. Okay, 10 are effects, the karya, and 13 are the current, the causes. Okay. The 10 effects are things that we already see, that are the end products, final products of all the modifications that have happened, all the action, processing, everything has happened. What is the final product, right? Those final products are, one is the actual 5 elements, the 5 elements of nature that then finally go on to create everything else, right? So 5 elements of nature and the 5 objects of senses that we have. These are the final 5, these are the effects. Behind them stand the karan, the causes of these final effects. And those 13 causes are all internal to us, right? First is our antahkaran, the internal tools. The internal tools, the antahkaran that we keep talking about. Antahkaran are nothing but internal tools. The intellect, the ego, and the mind. Okay. And then there are 10 external tools, the bahya karan. Antahkaran, so these are all karan, correct? Causes. Antahkaran, internal tools. Bahya karan, the external tools. So internal tools then affect our bhav, our effect, like the bhav with which we do something, the reason, the purpose with which we do something, how we place our ego within it, right? All of these are our antahkaran. And the bahya karan, the 5 senses of perception and 5 senses of action. In the last class, we had understood that we may have exactly the same VVGP, but how I perceive those 5, how I perceive the situation, how I perceive the VVGP, how I perceive what the other person is saying, will have an effect on how I experience the situation and the results I create out of it. Because these 5 causes of perception, 5 senses of perception. So first we perceive. So the 5 senses of perception. This perception then affects how I act. So the 5 causes of action. These 10 things put together, along with the bhav with which I do that action, the purpose with which I do my action, all these things eventually create my experience of life. Right? So these become the tools of action. The bahya karan and the antahkaran, internal tools and the external tools, create how, so same VVGP, same stimuli, okay? Me, Abhinav, Sanchita, Kavita, Anita, Bhagyashri, Naina, every one of us get subject to the same external stimuli. But the way we perceive it will be dependent on our antahkaran. So depending on our antahkaran, we will have a certain perception and then we will have a certain action against it. All of this creates how I experience that situation. And when I say how I experience that situation is who? My individualized self, because he is the experiencer. There's only one experiencer, that is the soul inside of us. He alone experiences. He is the bhokta of everything. Bhokta of what we eat, bhokta of what we think, bhokta of what we feel. Every kind, the bhokta is the individualized self. He is the only bhokta. Now the thing is that, okay, if he is the bhokta, he alone is the bhokta, and he is Satchit Anand, then why do I experience suffering? I experience suffering and I don't experience Satchit Anand because of what Abhinav just said, because our antahkaran is unclean. Now, what happens when my antahkaran is unclean? Okay, to give a simple example, somebody if I have certain characteristics, okay, but I believe okay, how do I explain this? Okay, wait. I know what I want to say. I just want to find the right example to speak it out. To give a very gross example, okay, a very gross example. Beauty is in the eye of beholder, correct? If I believe I'm not beautiful, I'm not pretty, I'm not looking good, I'm not good looking, okay? I believe that there is something lacking in me. I need to change. I need to do something. I need to get something from outside to be able to look good. No matter how many times somebody might come and say that you're looking good, you're pretty, you're beautiful, you're such an, it does not matter. It does not matter what somebody else says. I believe I am not good looking, I am not beautiful. I will never feel beautiful. I'll always suffer. So it doesn't matter what I really am. If I may have the ability to do some action, all the ability, all the resources, everything has been given to me, and I have all the capability to get some work done. But if internally I don't believe I have the capability, if internally I don't believe that if I have made it my own, that I can't do it, there is nothing in this world that will be able to make me do it. I will find a way to spoil that work. 100%. Something in my mindset will create a situation that I will not be able to get that work done, because internally I fully believe I am incapable of doing it.
And
It doesn't matter how many resources are given to me. It does not matter how much help is given to me. It does not matter how many people tell me that you're capable of it. So it all depends on who I identify myself with. If I have decided, मैंने मान लिया है, literally it is just that, मैंने मान लिया है कि I am incapable of doing this, nothing in this world will be able to, I will suffer through exactly what I have decided I am. And that is why that belief of knowing who I am, what I am, is extremely important. Okay? आप मान लेते हैं, आप मान लेते हैं. So you now, the crux of this power is this. You are who you believe you are, and you will manifest it in your life continuously, because aham brahmasmi. Aham brahmasmi. Whatever I deeply believe within myself, I will create. That is why it is important for us to deeply love ourselves, deeply accept ourselves for who we are. Only then can we give love to others. Only then can we be compassionate to others. Only then we can understand others. That's one. Second, we will manifest everything outside of us based on what is inside of us. Whatever you truly believe you deserve, you will create and you will get. Whatever you don't think you deserve, if you don't think you deserve love, you will never get love. If you don't think you deserve Lakshmi, you will never get Lakshmi. Everything about your behavior and actions is going to create that. We don't realize how powerful we are, but this is actually truth. Deepest. That's why, see, in the subconscious, what we have in our subconscious, we are not aware, but it comes out in our words, in our actions, in our thought process, in our behavior. Unconsciously, it comes out. And that is why, and how is subconscious formed? It's not magic. Subconscious is nothing but repeated behavior. Repeated behavior is subconscious. It becomes subconscious. You start playing tennis, you have no idea how to play it. You will make all kinds of mistakes, and you have to constantly practice, consciously practice. With that continuous constant practice, it becomes a muscle memory. And then it goes into your subconscious. Muscle memory is subconscious behavior, right? You're just acting. After that, the ball comes, you're not thinking, you're not calculating consciously, your body will automatically move because of constant repeated behavior. So our subconscious is made out of repeated actions, repeated beliefs, repeated behavior, which has happened over a very long period of time, over ages, over birth after birth after birth. Being able to recognize that and then being able to say, Aham Brahmasmi, that is what I am. I am not this body. I am not this mind. I am not this intellect. I am not this ego. Aham Brahmasmi. Knowing it, believing it, and constantly repeating it throughout the day. And constantly praying to God throughout the day by telling him that I am incapable of achieving you through my own Shakti, through my own power. I need your help. I am surrendered to you. You accept me and help me to see you everywhere. And knowing that constantly you have to see, imagine like, all over so many births you would have taken. Over all those births, we have developed a belief that I am this body, mind, and intellect combination. I am this BMI complex. Now we have to undo that through new beliefs, through new thoughts, through new actions. It will require a lot of constant action, a lot of constant work on it. But once you believe it, it will come out. This is one of the practical things for us to live with. So that is why we keep saying, whatever VVGP you see outside, whatever suffering you, whatever causes you suffering, there's nothing outside for you to work on. You need to work inside of us. You manifested it because of some deep-seated belief inside of you, of who you are and what you deserve. We manifest it through simple cause and action. And how does it work? Because the world is full of cause and action. You do an action, it will create, that becomes a cause of an effect. And the effect is that it will create a certain belief. It will create a certain emotional energy. It will create a certain thought energy, which gets stored inside of us. And it will, at the right time, manifest itself in its appropriate manifested result. Unmanifested result has already happened, and it has got deposited in our, what we call the Prarabdha Sanduk, the chest of our Prarabdha. It has got affected, it has got absorbed into our causal body, into our astral body. And at some point of time, it will get affected in the manifest form. And some of these things take time to accrue and to get converted from the unmanifest form to the manifest form. But you have immediately, the moment you think something, thought has massive energy. You think something, you feel something, and whatever it is, it creates an immediate effect. It creates an effect on our hormones, on our mental health, on our emotional health. It starts to have physical impact on our body. Make no mistake about it. Somebody is watching, not watching, everything that you do has an immediate residual effect which gets stored. And it will manifest itself when the time is right. That is why Nam Jap, constant Nam Jap at all times, to keep us on the right track, to constantly remind us of who we really are. Nam Jap is a constant reminder of who I really am, and I'm not this BMI. Yeah, Bhagyashree.
So, if I am perceiving something, then it will manifest itself. Let's say I am thinking something and it will create, right? But what if something is actually happening because of my prarabdha and not because I am thinking it in a wrong way or perceiving it in a wrong way? So how to identify whether it is actually my creation or whether it's like prarabdha, my prarabdha happening, and what to do if it's like prarabdha when it's not in your control, right? It's not what you have thought. It's not how you, I mean, what it.
Got it. So first of all, it's all your creation. Prarabdha is also your own creation. You created it long time ago. You don't know
Yeah,
when
but
you created
now
it.
I'm experiencing it.
Yeah, now you're experiencing, but it is your creation. Okay. So accepting the fact that everything that you're experiencing today is your own creation is the first point of power, taking back your power. If I have created this, I can also undo this. Okay. Now, how fast can you undo depends on the amount of energy you put into changing yourself. How fast you learn tennis depends on whether you're practicing once a week, once a month, or you're practicing every day. Correct? The amount of effort you put into learning new habits, learning new beliefs, behaving in a different way will determine how quickly your antahkaran changes. The moment your antahkaran changes to a more positive attitude, to a more loving attitude, your outside external experience will change as well. Now, what does that mean in terms of my old prarabdha? Do I still have to experience my old prarabdha? I had explained this in one of the previous classes that we suppose I have accrued a certain prarabdha because I do a certain activity constantly, right? So if I've done a certain activity which has accrued me a prarabdha 100 times, okay? I'm not going to experience all 100 times, right? Actually, if I go down the normal route of the nature, then cause and effect means that if I have done a cause 100 times, the effect will be created 100 times. Correct? So then I should experience all of that prarabdha. But the reality is that all of this is happening in the dream state. This is all dream state. This is all not reality. So if I continue to live within this context, 100 times I have created a cause, 100 times I will have an effect. In fact, the law of nature doesn't say that you create 100 cause and you get 100 effect. It is actually a magnifier. So you do something one time, you will get it multiple times, the result of it. Okay. Now, the point is that the way you break out of this is the way you remove darkness by switching on a light. The moment you've switched on a light, it doesn't matter how many years of darkness has been there in that room. It gets wiped out instantly. That darkness has been there for 10 minutes or 10 years. The moment you switch on the light, all darkness goes. It isn't as if like, oh, this darkness has been there for 100 years. And so now the light will take 1 hour to spread. It doesn't work that way, which means that once you have cleared a certain effect inside of you, the moment you have been able to deal with a certain thing, the moment you have learned your lesson for a particular thing, which is associated with all of this prarabdha, that prarabdha is instantly burnt. So all of it. So for us, what does it mean today? This is not what we need to focus on. On a practical basis, your job is, okay, whatever I'm experiencing today is because of my prarabdha. Whether it is prarabdha that has been accrued in previous lives or whether it is prarabdha that I accrued because of something I did 10 minutes ago or a year ago. Okay. It could be that I'm experiencing prarabdha instantly, or it could be a prarabdha that I'm experiencing after a long delay. End of the day, I have created it. Now the choice I have today is, am I going to use this VVGP that I'm experiencing to create more prarabdha? Or will I use it to be able to do yoga through it? Every situation is yoga, a situation for yoga, or it is a creation for jala. Because it is Maya. Every VVGP is Maya. You use it to do yoga to Bhagwanji and hence burn away your prarabdha, or you use it to get more entangled into Maya and then create more prarabdha for yourself. That is the only choice we have in the moment.
So let me, yeah. Coming, so another way to, not another way, this same thing, I'm just saying it in a different way, which is everything you experience in this world is is your prarabdha and it is his will. Every single thing, every single result, as we've already studied, is his. It's not ours. The only thing that we create and have in our control is the bhav with which we experience or with which we act. That is it. That small element of bhav is the only thing where our free will exists. When we don't put our mind in conscious effort at that bhav level, you are immediately taken over by ego. I'm creating this, I created that, and that's a slippery slope. It doesn't matter what you're experiencing. Nothing matters what you're experiencing in this world, because all of this is temporary. All of this is a joke. Reach a level where you can laugh at everything because it is a joke. There is nothing for you to be so serious about. The only effort we need to make is at the bhav level. That is the extent of our free will.
Correct. So bhav with which you perceive something, and then the bhav with which you act
So
in that VVGP. The
So-
same person experiencing the same VVGP can experience it positively or can experience it negatively. And hence their actions after that, based on that perception, are going to be either positive or negative,
so
or they are going to be equanimous.
So it's not about my thoughts, my creation versus what's happening. Everything that is happening is his will. Whether it's part of your prarabdha, whether it's whatever, you don't need to classify these things on a
So
day-to-day
his
basis.
will is actually your prarabdha. His
Yeah.
will is what? His will in this world, you've come into this game. The creator has created a game. You've come into this game. And there are rules in this game. You do this, you get this result. You do that, you get this result. That's it. So that's his will. It's with his will, he created these laws of nature.
So what I find amazing sometimes, every time actually I find it amazing every time I think about it, right? There are about 8 billion people in the world, right? And we all have the same form. All of us have a body with 2 eyes, 1 nose, 1 mouth, 2 ears, forehead, hair. Just with these 6, 7 elements, nature has made 8 billion different faces. Think of the power of that Maya. I can guarantee if you try to do it, you will maybe, if you're me, you'll get stuck at 5. If you're a genius, you'll probably get stuck at 100. Beyond that, it's impossible to think of the variations. Every single face is made from the exact same material and form.
And then now extended to snowflakes. Every snowflake is different.
Every snowflake has unique characteristic. Now, let's take this to the subtle level. All of us, every single 8 billion of us, have the exact same physical experiences of in this world. All of us are going to go through birth. All of us are going to go through death. All of us are going to have bad relations with our family, good relations in the family, fights with our siblings, fights with the spouses, separation maybe from spouses, love with our spouses, fights with our children. Every single one of us are going to go through the job losses, getting fired. All of us are going to go through the exact same physical experiences. But how we perceive it changes lives for everybody. And there is a spectrum that we know where people will perceive it in a negative way and they'd go into anxiety and depression and all of those things, right? Or unhappy, negative, anger. But then we also know there is a spectrum of human beings who we call saints, who experience all of this, but yet are at peace. And our goal is to be at that spectrum, be on the other end of that spectrum. That's why we're doing the Gita. That's why we're working on our Antakara. Life and its experience will keep happening. It is frivolous.
Somebody told me a couple of days ago, which I found pretty interesting, is that, and this is again law of nature. Okay, the mindset of Lakshmi is peace and calmness and happiness. Calmness and happiness is the mindset of Lakshmi. If a person remains calm, peaceful, and happy, no matter what he does, he will attract Lakshmi in his life. And if there is strife, there's anger, there's upset in the mind, Lakshmi will not stay. And she comes every day. Every day she comes. And she particularly comes in the evening. Particularly comes in the evening. 6 o'clock she will come in your house. If your house is calm, happy atmosphere, if your mind is calm and happy, she will come and stay with you. If she walks in and she sees husband wife fighting, if she comes in, she sees somebody crying, if she comes in, she sees anger, upset, she'll walk out of the house. Okay, now walk out of the house as in, like, think of it from your internal perspective, right? Your house is your body, right? Every day she comes in. Now, a very good practical thing he was telling me was, in the evenings, you make sure that you don't get into any strife. If there is a difficult conversation to be had, if there's something that is going to cause you anxiety, don't do that work in the evening. And from a practical standpoint, all of us have experienced that if we do any of those negative, we indulge in any negative conversation in the evening, it spoils your sleep, which then spoils your very next day, because rest is the basis of all activity. If you are not well rested, your body does not function, your mind does not function, all kinds of important things that sleep is supposed to bring to us, we don't get any of those benefits. There's no rest. Should do all, if there is something of strife to happen, do it in the morning, because it gives you an entire time period to be able to process it when you're fresh, when you have the energy to deal with things, when you're well rested, your ability to deal with stress is way higher. Then at the end of the day, when you're you know you do just your energy resources are completely depleted, and you need more rest. All of those things die up. End of the day, it does not matter what you are doing. What depends is your actions don't matter. Your mindset is all that matters. And Lakshmi means calm, peacefulness, happiness, physical comforts. Everything will get attracted to you. Your mindset attracts. Okay? If your mindset is light, it will attract light. If your mindset is dark, it will attract darkness. Like attracts like, it attracts. Okay? So the mindset of Lakshmi is calm and peace and happiness. So if you really want to attract Lakshmi in your life, then watch your mindset. Okay? And this is just I'm just giving an example of how there's your mindset, your antakaran and your bahya karan, it creates causes and effect. Okay, this is just a very practical thing. If you actually look at all those, there are books on like laws of attraction, and there are all kinds of books out there. Eventually, they all come down to this. But they're talking at a level of like doing something. But they are based on actual laws of nature, which are being propounded in this shloka. This shloka is the thesis for all kinds of books that you see which talk about laws of attraction. Naina, will you do shloka 21 with us?
The Lord explains the result of this involvement.
Purusha prakristho hi
Purusha prakritisto hi
bhumte prakriti jan gunan
bhumte prakriti jan gunan
karanam guna sangosya
Karanam gunasangosya
Satsadyo nijan Satsadyo nija janmasu.
satsadyo nija janmasu.
Yeah, I think we did j twice. Satsadyo nijanmasu.
Satsadyo nijanmasu.
Perfect.
Only the spirit posited in nature experiences the gunas born of nature. This contact with the gunas is the cause of being born in different species, propitious and unpropitious. Contact with the gunas leads to good and vicious forms of creation. It is the spirit or individualized self which has the presumption to be subject to the stimulations born of the three gunas of nature. This is why it is called Prakritisthita or nature posited. In reality, nature and spirit have contrary characteristics, and the spirit cannot be subject to experiencing the impulses of nature. But under the influence of delusion, it thinks itself to be bound by them.
See, this
This
is
pseudo,
an important
yeah.
point for us to understand. The nature is limited, it is transient, whereas the spirit is unlimited and constant, ever present. So they are absolute opposites of each other, right? And if our individualized self is him, it is Akshar Brahma ultimately, and all the characteristics of it is Akshar Brahma's characteristic, then how does it get bound? Why does it experience suffering and pain? This is the point that we are trying to understand here. Why does the Akshar Brahm experience suffering? Why does Sat Chit Anand experience suffering? It experiences suffering because it accepts it. खुद मान लेता है. So there is nobody else who's bounding us to experience suffering but ourselves. हमने मान लिया है I am limited. I have accepted the limit. This is my limit. I cannot do this. I cannot do that. I cannot be happy if I don't get tea in the morning. अब मैंने मान लिया है कि I cannot be happy if I don't get tea in the morning. Nothing in this world will make me happy until I get that tea in the morning. Who has bound her happiness to a cup of tea in the morning? Tuhina has bound it. Abhinav hasn't found it. Abhinav will keep telling me, Tuhina, try it. There is actually happiness beyond that cup of tea. But no, until I accept it, I will keep experiencing unhappiness each time I don't get that cup of tea in the morning. So ये माना हुआ संबंध है. This is a relationship I have created because I have accepted it. Nobody else can make me accept it. I have accepted it. ये माना हुआ संबंध. This is not a real संबंध. There's no real cause and effect there. It isn't as if like actually in reality having that cup of tea actually produces happiness. There is no real cause and effect there. You get what I'm trying to say? There is no real cause and effect. ये माना हुआ संबंध है. I have created that in my own mind. That is exactly the relationship between Jivatma and suffering. The Jivatma inside of us accepts the gunas, accepts the antakaran, accepts the limits that the gunas pose on us and says, I am limited because I am this body, mind, intellect. The moment your individualized self accepts itself to be the BMI and only accepts, it is not a real thing. There is no reality to the soul actually being that BMI complex. It just accepts it. मान लेता है कि ये मैं हूं, ये ही मेरी limitations हैं. And that's it. It's done. Now you are that. because you've accepted yourself to be that. It is literally as simple as that. और अगर ये माना हुआ ही संबंध है तो इसका संबंध विच्छेद, breaking of this is where? Inside of me only. If I say I can be happy without that morning cup of tea, I can replace it with a glass of warm water instead. I can replace it with nothing. I can replace I am not dependent on whether I get this, whether I don't get that. It doesn't matter. I can still be happy. If I accept it, I will be happy no matter what. माना हुआ संबंध है, आप माने हुए संबंध का immediately संबंध विच्छेद कर सकते हैं.
So, we've already talked about this shloka and the previous shloka, right? Like the difference between nature and body and soul. I'll give you another example of it. Imagine there are two circles. Okay? That are on top of each other, exactly layered on top of each other. When you look from the top, how many circles will you see?
Only one.
So if there are two circles placed on top of each other, or if you look from the top, how many circles will you see?
One.
Only one.
One.
Only one.
The moment you change your angle of look,
Hmm.
what will you see? There are two circles,
You can see it.
right? And that is the same with our soul and our body. We are looking from this angle, so we think it's the same. It is just the perception that we need to change for us to see, they're different. And all of us reach this perception, right? Like after death. We realize, whole life we wasted looking at it from the top and identifying.
And no, they don't reach that level of perception as much as this top one goes away. It falls away after death. So we're like, oh, there's a circle below. Right? So the only way to change your level of perception is through what? Through Manan and Nidhi Dhyasan. Manan and Nidhi Dhyasan. Nidhi Dhyasan will happen, and that's when you will start to really realize the truth of the laws of nature. And you start to realize how to use the laws of nature for your benefit consciously, rather than being subjected to them unconsciously. And once you understand them that well, then you start to see what input am I giving to it to create this output. So, oh, okay, all I need to do is to change this input. So then you become more conscious about putting the right input to create the right output. And ultimately, Gita says what? Now, once you've understood these laws of nature, don't create an input-output in just the material world. It's a game. Of course, you will be able to create it. You put this, you will get that out once you understood it. Use it for the highest cause. Don't create petty manifestations. Create the highest manifestation, which is the only thing that's worth it, because every other manifestation you will create is transient. So create the manifestation of the ultimate bliss. Reach the ultimate point, which is going to stay forever for all the effort that you are going to do and put into this. Let's read ahead.
This pseudo-contact throws it into the cycle of births and deaths in various forms of creation. The forms of gods, manes, Gandharvas, etc. are considered to be propitious, and those of animals, birds, worms and insects are thought to be unpropitious. The form of a human being is both propitious and unpropitious. If on being endowed with the human form, it is utilized only to hanker after animal comforts and enjoyments, then the intellect is also engrossed in their acquisition and indulgence in them. Such a person becomes worse than an animal. On the other hand, if it is utilized to achieve self-realization and self-perception by the way of devotion to the Lord, it becomes more sublime than even the gods, as it is the exclusive privilege of the individualized self in human form to attain to the Lord.
So, how does this whole thing work in terms of like, and I'll give you a very basic understanding that I have. Okay, I don't have the deepest understanding. So I'm sure if you'll ask me too many questions, you will I will expose my depth of understanding here very quickly. Okay, but I'll give you what I understand. We get whatever we want. Okay, aham brahmasmi. I create whatever I believe in, whatever I want. Okay, so when we say that human form is both propitious and unpropitious, that means we have that choice. Every other form is a bhog yoni. Bhog yoni because we don't have a choice. We are born in that, and then we will do the bhog of that yoni, whatever that yoni is supposed to give us. We do the bhog. This human form is the only yoga yoni in which I have the choice of using my intellect, using my mind, using my ego to do yoga with the Lord. Now, if in this form I choose to only focus on creature comforts, then what choice am I making? I'm saying I want this particular creature comfort. Now, I could be somebody who is only interested in sleeping. I sleep a lot. And sleep a lot is not just physical sleeping. It could also mean other forms of tamas, right? But if I am choosing to sleep through everything, I choose not to see the reality as a form of sleep, right? If I'm constantly sleeping, तो भगवान जी बोलेंगे अच्छा तुमको nature is saying what? Oh, you want sleep. That's what you want. Then next form of life, you will be born in a yoni, jiska bhog is only sona, sloth, or some form of species that will give you hibernation. You want to sleep? No? Sleep. Go sleep. Take as much sleep as you want. जब तक वो भोग खत्म नहीं हो जाता तुम्हारा and you're like, this vasana is done. I don't want to sleep anymore. I'm done with it. I'm fulfilled in that vasana. Then you will be born again as something else. Your vasanas define what your birth is going to look like because you want to fulfill that vasana. Every yoni particularly fulfills a certain vasana. Okay. And we have tons and tons of different types of vasanas. Okay. So that you are born in that yoni based on our vasanas, what I want to fulfill in myself, what I feel unfulfilled for, and I'm constantly hankering after it. I want this, I want this, I want this through my mind and through my actions. इसलिए वो बोलते हैं कई बार like there are a lot of different examples I've read in higher scriptures. I don't fully get the connections there yet, right? So this is, but I've understood that our vasanas then define the bhog of those vasanas, fulfillment of those vasanas, because I want it, will determine what, and there are like none of us is single dimensional in general, right? We don't have that single-minded intellect. We have a multiple-minded intellect. I want this and I want that and I want that and I want that and stuff like that, right? So depending on the strength of our vasanas, we go from top to down. Okay, now you want to first fulfill this vasana, become this. Do the bhog. You want to do the bhog, do the bhog. Bhog yoni mein aap jao. Uska bhog ho gaya. Now what else do you want? You wanted this. Okay, now go experience this. Take it, take it, take it. So then it becomes extreme form of that bhog. But of course, as with any form of extreme bhog, then all the other negative things around it, that's the cost you have to pay for that bhog. You pay the cost of that bhog. Correct? There's no free lunch. So that's how this works. That based on how we behave or how we use this yoga yoni, it's the only yoni, imagine out of 84 lakh yonis, this is the only yoni in which we have been given choice. So the fact that we are born in this yoni, मतलब कि हमने अपनी पुरानी वासनाओं का भोग जो है extreme भोग वो हमने complete कर लिया. भगवान जी, okay, now you go back again, make a choice how you want to live this life. So we are all extremely blessed for us to be in this yoni in the first place, where Bhagwan Ji has given us this choice. Make a choice again. Yes, ma'am.
Prarabdha is accrued in other yonis also, or only human yoni?
Only human yoni.
Only
Because in the other yoni, you have no choice.
just both,
You're
right?
doing bhog. वो तो काटते हैं आपके प्रारब्ध.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll go ahead.
And just to reiterate, the
Hmm.
choice in this yoni is just at the bhav level.
Correct. Only at the
Nothing
bhav level.
else, not your goals, not your achievements, none of that. Just bhav. With what bhav you act and with what bhav you experience.
Absolutely.
And even prarabdha is at the thought level.
If
So-
you've thought something, उसके बाद आप कुछ भी एक्शन कर लो. आपको सपोज कुकिंग करना है घर पे और आप जाके वो कुकिंग कर रहे हो, तो कुकिंग तो आप कर ही लोगे. इट डजंट मैटर आपने कुकिंग की या नहीं की. उससे पहले आपका जो व्हाट वाज योर भाव, यू गॉट अपसेट, एंग्री, और यू वर हैप्पी एंड ग्रेटफुल फॉर बीइंग गिवन दैट अपॉर्चुनिटी टू डू सेवा. That is the only thing that will create a prarabdha. Not whether after you think 20 negative thoughts and then you go and cook. आपने action भी किया, प्रारब्ध भी बनाया negative. Okay. But suppose you have the positive mindset and you're saying, I'm grateful for this seva and everything, right? So you are in that really positive mindset. Then you go there for cooking and something else turns up and you don't end up cooking actually. Then it doesn't matter. In your mind, you've already created the right prarabdha of equanimity or a positive prarabdha for you to do bhog. Depend again on the purpose. You're connecting it to what? You're connecting that and you're doing that with a positive mindset for a positive gain, or you're doing it for Bhagwanji alone. That will determine whether you're creating a positive prarabdha in the first place or you're not creating any prarabdha at all. All in the mind, not the action level. The action pe jo ho. Prarabdha will accrue because of what our thoughts are and what our emotions are when we go into something. Okay. Kavita, will you read with us?
In fact, the individualized self is basically divine and it can never be subject to the influence of nature as he is its master. Describing this, the Lord says,
So here, see what we are getting into at this stage is, and it's a bit profound, right? But hopefully through all these examples, we'll really understand it. There is kshetra, there is kshetragya. Kshetra and kshetragya, one who knows the kshetra, controls the kshetra, is the master of the kshetra. And yet, we feel as if this, even if we accept that I am the kshetragya, I'm still experiencing that pain. So, what is the connection between kshetra and kshetragya? What is being explained here is actually no connection. That big chart that we see, there is self on top and there's everything else below, those three gunas and everything else. And you see that all those three gunas and everything else between that, they're connected by lines. Cause and effect, cause and effect, cause and effect. But between the self and these modifications of the nature, there is no line, there is no connection. They stand separate in that chart because there is no connection in reality. The only connection is जो हमने मान लिया है. We have accepted, we have created in our deluded mind. And that is what is being explained in the last three shlokas, including this one. That's what we need to understand. ये सिर्फ माना हुआ deluded concept है. As long as we are in delusion and we accept these limitations, we are that. If you want to say, I am idam, I am this prakriti, so I am this. And the day I accept that I am not this, I am that. I am Satchitanand, I am Akshar Brahm, I become that. But when I say I accept, I deeply accept from deep inside of me, even at my subconscious level. And that will only happen through constant conscious practice. So that is what is being explained now. The relationship between Kshetra and Kshetragya. We've understood Kshetra and all its characteristics, all its modifications. Then we understood Kshetragya and all its reality and what the characteristics are. Now we are understanding the relationship between the two. उपद्रष्टानुमन्ता च
उपद्रष्टानुमन्ताश्च
भर्ता भोक्ता महेश्वरः
भर्ता भोक्ता महेश्वरः
परमात्मेति चाप्युक्तो
परमात्मेति चाप्युक्तो
देहेऽस्मिन् पुरुषः परः
देहेऽस्मिन् पुरुषः परः. The spirit foisted in the body is the seer, the guide, and the purveyor, the experiencer, the great Lord, and the supreme divinity. Individualized self as the seer, guide, purveyor, experiencer, and the supreme divinity. In the second line of the shloka, the Lord declares unequivocally that the individualized self foisted in the physical form is in reality the supreme. In the first line, his characteristics have been enumerated in that capacity. Seer. As a supreme divine being, he is not himself engaged in actions, but placed in close proximity of the actions performed by the three gunas of nature. He oversees them unaffectedly and is therefore their seer.
Basically, he's the witness, not the doer. He's the observer in the mind that you have conversations with, who can sometimes you can even tap into and look at yourself from this angle, right? Like we all have memories of ourselves with the camera at this angle, where you're seeing your own body and you're seeing it in action. That's that observer.
It's like the sun. Sun's energy provides or creates all the action in this world. But sun himself is not affected. In the sunlight, आप जाके चोरी कर लो कि आप जाके you become the farmer and you are doing the hard work. It doesn't matter. It does not. None of your actions affect the sun. You do a negative action, you do a positive action, you don't do any action. The sun is not affected. He's only observing with no judgment, with no this thing. He's just is there. He provides that energy within which all these different actions happen. So the individualized self is a seer or a witness, like the sun is a witness to the life on earth.
Guide in all the actions of the senses and those of the inner being. He is the exclusive prompter and is therefore their guide.
And this is the voice. Some people call it our intuition. Some people will call it, like, if you do something wrong repeatedly, automatically you will feel shame. And automatically there'll be a voice inside of you that says, you know what, you should not have done that. Right? That voice is him, is the individualized self, helping us on our track for the principles. That voice will never, if you observe, it will never interrupt when you're reading the Gita or when you're implementing the Gita principles. But if you go too much in sansar, that voice will come loud and clear.
And he is the one through which, when he is a guide, it is that guide through whom we seek permission. He gives permission. And how does he give permission? You watch your antakaran. Like Abhinav said, if you do something that he does not give you permission for, you feel shame, or you feel guilt, or you feel some other negative emotion. We may not always listen to this voice because this voice is very soft. We often dull our senses through our engagement in the external world so that this voice becomes softer and softer and softer until we stop listening to it. And it stops bothering me on a physical level. And because now I'm not getting that internal validation, I will seek external validation. I need validation. Typically, that validation, that permission is given by the self. So if my connection to the self is strong, if I am in touch with myself, then that self's voice is loud and clear, and he'll guide me. He'll answer all my questions. He's going to guide me along my life, on my choices, and will give me that validation that I seek.
So even us as parents, right? This is the biggest mistake we make. We want to control our children. We want to be their guide. Our job actually is to become completely irrelevant to them. Our job is to nurture their voice and their reasoning, because their guide is already with them, just like our guide is with us. The child will automatically, unless he has a vasana, he will do a mistake 3-4 times. He will lie, he will cheat. All kids do it. They cheat, they steal, they lie. When they come into bed, they are the first people to confess, and they're the first people to say, Papa, I think that was wrong. You don't even need to scold them after that. You don't need to tell anything to them. Then you know their internal mechanism is working. We dumb it down by putting rules, regulations, criticizing all of those things that we do as parents, which we normalize because we are doing it for their ultimate benefit. No, you're doing it for your benefit, your ego, not for their benefit. Bhagwan ji ke bachche, Bhagwan ji will take care of them just the way he's taking care of us.
Yeah, so when we dull our internal voice too much is when we start to seek external validation. Okay, so external validation is when because see, ultimately we need to know that whatever is being done is correct or not. So the more external validation we seek, the less we are in touch with our own selves. That's an indication. It's a symptom. And the deeper we go inside of us, the more in touch with him we are, the less external validation we need. So then I do an action. I know what my bhav is. I have got the permission to do it. Then I don't care what others say about it. Right? Now, at the action level, you can't judge a person through his actions at all. Right? And you shouldn't. The only person you can judge is yourself. Because of your own, you only know what your bhav is. You only know where you are. But that's the principle with which he works. He's our ultimate guide. He's our seer. He's the witness to everything. And he's the one who guides us and tells us as a witness, he will tell us, theek hai? No. You are going on the wrong path. You'll feel it inside of you. It's what we call the intuition. The more you listen to it, the deeper you hone that intuition, just like everything else. Learn to listen to it, learn to act on it rather than doubt it. Go ahead.
Yeah, well,
Purveyor. He nourishes and provides for maintenance of the organs of the body. He is therefore called the purveyor.
this is also clear, right? When the spirit is there, the body works. The spirit leaves, nothing in the nature changes. The nature is all there, but nothing works. We require his energy for everything to maintain itself.
Then experiencer. He receives the experiences of the senses. For this purpose, he equips himself with the body, senses, mind, and intellect. Equipped with these, he became the experiencer.
And which is what we we heard in chapter 11 also, right? And chapter 10, where he says that he is the one with, and I think previously also in this chapter also we covered, he has unlimited eyes, he has unlimited ears, and then again, in the very next one we said he does not have any of the senses, and yet he hears, yet he, basically he experiences everything through all of us at all times.
Supreme divinity. The self pervades everything and is totally independent of their influence. This is why he is the supreme divinity.
He pervades everything. He is the subtlest of the subtle. The subtler you go, the more powerful the effect is. The grossest levels have the least power, even though it feels as if like it has great power, right? Brawn is less powerful than brains. So the subtler you go, right, the more powerful the energy is. Steam energy has more power than water energy. Atomic energy has a lot more energy than any other physical form of energy that we have or is known to mankind. Right? So the subtler we go, the more powerful it is. And he is the subtlest of the subtle. So he pervades everything. And so if he pervades everything, he knows everything and he rules everything. So then it does not matter if we really, really understand it. It does not matter if somebody is seeing us or not. Our actions are constantly being seen by him and are subject to his laws. Our thoughts don't need to be heard by anybody else, but they are being heard by him. He knows our thoughts before we know our thoughts. We'll close here and we'll do our takeaways. Who wants to go first?
Yeah.
Yes, Sanjay.
I think, in the previous shloka, what we spoke about that, our thoughts has massive energy. And, finally, I think this is something like when you read any books today, I mean, it's all points to the same direction that we have in us the power to, change things. I mean, it's the thoughts. And therefore, I think it's very important to, have the right thoughts, and that's something that and not get swayed or not get affected by negative things, and have and think positive and surrender to him and have faith that we will overcome anything that happens. Yeah, so that's my takeaway.
Thank you.
May I go next? Okay. My takeaway is the change of the perception is the one thing we need, because whatever it is happening around us, how we are perceiving it. So if we are perceiving in a negative way, we have to quickly look at it and think about it, manan, nididhyasan, and then you have to change the perception. The perception itself is God.
Absolutely. Beautiful. Thank you.
I can go next. So we have to believe in ourselves. God lives within us, so we don't need any external yes or no's. So whatever we inside our intuition tells us that if this is the right way, then we should follow our own right way.
Correct. But until our intuition is not honed enough, until we have not cleansed our antakaran enough to be able to hear his voice, because sometimes you can get confused whether it's your self speaking or whether it's your ego speaking to you, right? Until then, depend on the saints, the scriptures, the satsang to create that guide for us. And Upanishads and scriptures have given us very clear guidance. So follow that until by following that itself, we cleanse ourselves enough so that our intuition becomes strong enough to tell us what to do in every situation. And the result that you know that everything is fine and that you did everything in accordance with his wishes is the calm and the peace. That's the first way to experience Bhagwanji. First manifestation of him inside of us is to recognize that calmness and peace. He will not come in the form of some really big, magical, phenomenal manifestation. He comes in very subtle forms. And the very first is calm and peace that we experience after we get something done according to his wishes. When we are in line with his wishes, there is calm and peace.
Shall I go next? Yes, this is exactly the question I was thinking of, how we delude ourselves and how are we actually listening to our voice. Sometimes because of our antakarans are not clear yet. So we do have that confusion. So just maybe we have to think about, I mean, we have to feel the calmness and peace, and then we know that. So this is the question I had, and you just answered it. So yeah, and my takeaway is that the relationship between the kshetra and kshetrajna. Kshetrajna is just uh, Kshetrajna is identifying with Kshetra because of his complete acceptance of being limited. So that's my takeaway. So we have the whole purpose of this journey is to understand that or to come to accept that we are not limited.
Absolutely.
So that's the toughest part, and I don't know. I think it's going to just understanding that helped today.
Yeah. I think it's almost funny to think that we limit ourselves just by accepting it.
Mhm.
Like it's seriously, it's funny because of the impact it has on us and the the tenuousness of that connection.
Mhm.
It's such a weak connection. खाली हमने मान लिया है और कुछ भी नहीं है उसके अंदर. And yet the crazy impact it has on us. It is almost, it's unbelievable. It's almost funny.
Thank you.
I'll go next. Yeah. Yeah. So I was thinking about this thing that, I want to change my perception at the thought level. Um, Sometimes we try to think, but I'm not really convinced or feel it at in my emotions or thoughts. So I think it will only change when I do it at the bhav level, and that everything is transient. How we talked about, right? Whether it's experience of prarabdha or anything, everything is transient, and the voice, the guide, it is always there if we listen to it. We all must have experienced it, like for the smallest of things to the the biggest of things. Every time there is a voice which is telling us what to do, how to act, and we sometimes not listen to it, but yeah, it's always there. And I'll try to make a conscious effort to listen to it and clean my antakaran for that. Yeah.
Very nice. Thank you so much for the takeaways. So
Closing.
yeah, let's just do the closing shlokas.
Okay. ॐ सर्वेषां स्वस्तिर्भवतु, सर्वेषां शान्तिर्भवतु, सर्वेषां पूर्णं भवतु, सर्वेषां मङ्गलं भवतु. ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. ॐ सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः, सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु, मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्. ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. ॐ असतो मा सद्गमय, तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय, मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय. ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. ॐ पूर्णमद पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते, पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते. ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. ॐ ॐ Oh.
Okay.
Okay.
Narayan, everyone. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for the satsang.
Narayan,
Thank you,
thank you.
Narayan.
Thank you so much.
And